In February of 2003, 35 police officers armed with AK-47s entered the small Indonesian village of Karangpangi. Although the villagers had successfully chased off the police in past visits, they were helpless to contend with such a heavily armed unit. As the men searched for their target, the screams of an elderly woman could be heard over the ruckus. "She's my baby. You can't do this," she cried as they entered her home. Then they found what they were looking for, and although they knew what to expect, they were taken aback by what they saw. A shaven orangutan wearing makeup and jewelry, lying on a mattress, chained to a wall. As the men approach the orangutan, she presents herself, and begins to thrust and gyrate her hips. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of the orangutan prostitute. This video is sponsored by Wicked Clothes. You like the shirt I'm wearing with all the zombie Santas on it? It's from Wicked Clothes. They got all kinds of wacky, spooky designs. And they just sent me a new batch of shirts, so let's take a look at them. Got another skull with noodles for brains. See you in hell. Now I'm gonna have that Grim Reaper song stuck in my head. Got a Japanese skeleton doing Japanese skeleton things. Edgar Allan Poe just chilling with his raven. We got more birds on this Memento Mori hoodie. They've started their Black Friday sale with their biggest discount ever. Because of that though, sizes are selling out fast. And with the holidays approaching, I know you know someone that one of these shirts would probably be a perfect gift for. Or, you know, just get something for yourself. And now's the time to get it while it's cheap. Just go to wickedclothes.com/wang. Palm oil is a material that's contained in a shocking number of products that you use. Not just in food, but in things like shampoo, toothpaste, makeup. The list goes on and the demand keeps going up. The problem with palm oil, though, the industry is a major cause of deforestation. It's destroyed several animals' habitats, including several endangered species like elephants, rhinos, and orangutans. Although many of these displaced animals are killed or simply die, others find themselves for sale on the black market. You can buy an orangutan for around 10,000 bucks, sometimes right out there on the open on social media. Typically, these animals are purchased simply as pets, but the case of Pony the Orangutan was a bit different. She was first discovered in 2002 by an organization called the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation. The group was founded in the 90s to help fight against the problems caused by these industries. In particular, saving orangutans from the black market and rehabilitating them with the hopes of returning them to the wild. By the time Pony was discovered, the organization had saved over 500 orangutans. But they had never encountered anything like this before. Like many black market orangutans, Pony was taken from her parents who were likely killed at a very young age. It was believed that she was just 6 or 7 years old when she was rescued. And in nature, orangutans typically stay with their parents until they're between 7 and 11 years old. She would find herself at a village in Borneo named Karangpangi. Karangpangi was located near a palm oil farm, and the farm's workers would frequent the village to enjoy the product that this village was famous for: prostitution. Mostly human prostitutes. But then, there was Pony the Orangutan. In order to make Pony presentable for the clients, she was shaven bald every 2 days. She would wear jewelry, makeup, and perfume, and she was trained to perform various sex acts. At this point, you might be wondering, was Pony set up like this to trick the men into thinking this was some kind of deformed little human? No, they knew what was going on. In fact, they would pay a little bit extra for the thrill of fucking an orangutan. The equivalent of about $2.50. And like you, at least I'm assuming like you, I'm hoping like you, I can't fathom wanting to do this at all, let alone paying extra for it. I mean, even if you were into apes, I mean, humans are technically apes, but you know, I mean non-human apes. I can't help but think that an orangutan ranks near the bottom of the tier list of ape attractiveness. I mean, they're all dumpy and weird shaped. I don't know, I guess that's all subjective. Hope nobody watching this thinks that they look like an orangutan and now they're insulted by my description of orangutans being dumpy. But yeah, it seems kind of pointless to me because, I mean, who would in their right mind be like, yeah, let me pay extra to fuck a monkey? But sure enough, they made so much money off of this thing. So much so that when Pony was discovered by rescuers, they were met with extremely violent resistance from the villagers. Over the course of more than a year, several attempts were made with the assistance of local police to try and rescue the orangutan. And each time, the village residents chased them off with guns and knives that were covered in poison. To the villagers, Pony brought in so much money for them that they thought that losing her would financially ruin them. And on top of that, they also thought that she brought good luck. So in their minds, they were fighting for their lives to keep their orangutan prostitute. And ultimately, this leads to the confrontation of February of 2003, with 35 heavily armed policemen wielding AK-47s demanding that the villagers hand over the orangutan. And all the while this is happening, the madame who runs the brothel is crying loudly, saying that they're taking her baby and they can't do this. Which, I mean, damn, if that's what you do with your baby, I really hope that she has no human children. Although everyone involved in this operation knew that they were rescuing an orangutan, they mostly assumed that she was being kept as a pet, which was the norm for these cases. And so they are horrified to find out the truth. The Sun spoke to some of the people involved in the rescue. Danish conservationist Lone Droscher Nielsen was part of the team who rescued Pony in 2003. She said, "When I found out that she was used for prostitution and not just a pet, I was horrified. Perhaps in my naivety, I had never thought it humanly possible to do such a thing to an animal." Once the orangutan was rescued, due to how the law functioned locally, none of the people involved in this faced any consequences whatsoever. After her rescue, Pony was brought to a nearby conservation center to begin the lengthy healing process. Years of shaving her fur every other day left her skin in extremely bad condition. She was covered in ingrown hairs, and an orangutan's fur protects them from mosquito bites, and since she was bald, she would have a lot of mosquito bites. And she wouldn't stop scratching them, causing them to become infected. She was also afraid of all men. In this initial phase, all of her caretakers had to be women or she would freak out. And what made matters even more stressful for her, the villagers were pissed that Pony was taken, and the rescuers were afraid that they might somehow try to exact revenge. Out of fear of such a revenge attack, they made a deal. Once a month, the madame who owned Pony would be allowed to visit her. Now, to me, it seems kind of odd that she would even want to visit, but I guess despite all of the abuse she had committed, she had somehow grown attached to the ape. Pony, on the other hand, had not grown attached, and every time the madame would come, she would start screaming and shit all over the place. So eventually they said this isn't going to work, they stopped the visits, and they simply increased security at the center. And fortunately, the revenge attack never came. And after a period of isolated care, she was able to spend time in part of the forest with other female orangutans. And eventually she is able to have male caretakers, having gotten over her fear. Michelle Deslitz, who is the director of the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation, said to Metro, "I met Pony shortly after she was rescued. Her resilience is amazing. Despite the trauma, she maintained a dignity and a sense of humor. She had the best personality and learned how to trust very quickly despite what she'd been through." And in a more recent article by The Mirror, she speaks of where Pony is now. 15 years on from her 2003 rescue, Pony is now in good health and at the equivalent of university. She lives in an island enclosure in Yaru Menteng Rehabilitation Center with 7 other orangutans. They still have nightmares and behaviors that show they're still traumatized, like hugging themselves and their friends, Michelle said, but they are so well looked after. There is a personality that shines through with Pony. The people looking after her tell me she's an alpha female. She doesn't want a boyfriend. It's usually the male that makes the call on mating, but she won't have any of it. While safe and happy, Pony will never be fully introduced back into the wild, as her most informative years were spent in such dire and abusive conditions. She also notes that in the time since Pony was rescued, the amount of people keeping orangutans as pets has gone down significantly. Whether this is due to societal changes or improvements in law enforcement, she's not quite sure. But these types of individual rescues are no longer as big of a part of what the organization does anymore, with the main issues facing orangutans in the area now being deforestation and an unsustainable amount of food. That being said, the black market does still exist. I'm sure there's probably like one of you watching this that's like, wait a minute, I can get a pet orangutan? Don't do it. The baby orangutans might be cute, but they very quickly will get out of control. If you want to though, you can virtually adopt one of the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation's rescued animals and receive quarterly updates on their development. But anyway, that's the story of the orangutan prostitute. If you like this video, check out my video about the time 4chan rescued a cat from its abusive owner. I'm out.